Alright guys, NoLucksGiven here with Paradoxical Mentor to play some vintage. Gonna record a little deck tech portion for those that haven't seen this deck before on YouTube. But basically, this card right here, return any number of target non-land, non-token permanents you control to their owner's hand. Draw a card for each card returned to your hand this way. Apparently, this card's vintage playable. So obviously, you know about all the Mox and Mox Ruby, Mox Sapphire, Mox Pearl. This deck also supports a full playset of Mox Opal. Even with the Legend rule, it is still pretty great. The idea is to play a bunch of these artifacts. You're playing Mana Vault and Mana Crypt and Soul Ring, and also a pair of Sensi's Divining Tops. So the plan is to get these cards out, generate enough mana to cast a 4-mana spell, and then pick them back up. And then each artifact that you return is going to draw you a card, but it's also going to net you a mana on the other side of it. That's obviously important for Monastery Mentor, having prowess and creating prowess tokens. This card is a vintage staple at this point, and for the time being is legal as a 4-of in the format. So what else is in the deck? A whole bunch of blue shit. Gonna talk about this card, I think, first, because this is the craziest card in the deck. You don't see this in vintage a lot, but Seat of the Synod. You are playing this for two reasons: Metalcraft and Affinity. The same reasons that you might play this card in Modern or in Legacy, except we don't have any Cranial Platings in our deck or Arcbound Ravagers. We are just trying to turn on our Mox Opals as soon as possible. So turn 1 Seat, Mox Pearl, Mox Opal. We already have access to 3 mana. Pretty sweet. We also want it to work towards Affinity, like I said, and this deck is playing 4 copies of Thoughtcast, which is another card that you don't see too often. But Thoughtcast is a pretty interesting card for vintage. It's just draw 2 cards. It's just Divination or Night's Whisper or whatever you want to call it. It's just a draw 2. But in vintage, that's actually pretty good, especially in the blue mirrors. And obviously, 1 mana, draw 2 cards. Nobody's going to argue with that. But a lot of times you cast it for 2 mana, or sometimes even 3. And honestly, that's still okay. And the reason that that's still okay is because Divination is secretly borderline vintage playable. A lot of decks have this extra mana that they don't wind up spending with off-color Moxen. This deck is a blue-white deck, clearly, and only is playing blue and white cards. Yet we still play Mox Ruby, we still play Mox Emerald, Mox Jet, and we want something to do with that extra, what is essentially colorless mana. Because that's really all that we're making off of those off-color Moxen is colorless mana. So Outcome is a good mana sink. Mentor is a great mana sink. But also, and I do cast these off my Moxen a lot of times too, but Thoughtcast is also just a great mana sink as well. And in the blue mirrors, being able to out-card advantage your opponent by just casting more divinations that they do. Don't waste your time with Jace the Mind Sculptor and Jace of Rin's Prodigy and Dak Faden. Sure, those cards give you card advantage eventually. Thoughtcast gives you card advantage right now. So that is the main reason that you're playing it, because you can afford to. It's not a Planeswalker, so you don't have to protect it with Swords to Plowshares and things like that. Though a lot of Planeswalkers have built-in defense as well. This just has built-in defense because it doesn't have loyalty counters put on it. So those are the cards that are different to this deck, and it's weird to do a deck tech for vintage because so many cards in a given deck list are the same. I'm like, all right, let's do my vintage deck tech. All right, I'll talk about these 4 cards and then I'm done. But those really are most of the key differences between this deck and some other decks that you can see. Now, everything else is still potentially worth talking about. I mean, Ancestral, that's not worth talking about. Brainstorm, not really worth talking about. You're going to play your Ancestral, you're going to play your Brainstorm, you're going to play your Time Walk, but there are some, and Force of Will and Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise, you're going to play all those. There are some other cards that are worth talking about. Sensei's Divining Top, one of the reasons that card is so cool in the deck. Obviously, it contributes to Thoughtcast, it contributes to Mox Opal, and both of those do come up a decent amount, actually. But also super pressing is it contributes to Monastery Mentor, gives you a prowess trigger for your monks and all your tokens, and it helps create a monk. And if you haven't seen the trick before, you put the top on top of your deck on your upkeep, then you draw it for turn, and create a free monk every turn. Outcome, what you do is you flip top, which is the second activated ability of Sensei's Divining Top, and then you activate Paradoxical Outcome in response, putting it on top of your deck. Now, you'll see I won't do this every time as I play around counter magic or some stuff like that, but a lot of times you flip top, which again, people say the first mode is spin top, the second mode is flip. So you flip top and then cast Outcome in response. That will still allow you to draw a card from Top's activated ability, but then you also get to draw a card from Paradoxical Outcome's effect. So both of those kind of work in tandem with each other. Stick is also playing a Mystical Tutor to tutor up an instant or sorcery. Ancestral's pretty good, Time Walk's pretty good, Outcome's pretty good as well. Sometimes you get the Force of Will. That's less likely because you're losing a lot of card advantage to do that. Also a Merchant Scroll. Oh, we are in our match. All right, so there's the deck tech. Let's jump into the matches. All right, right off the bat, this one looks like a pretty easy mulligan. This one I can make something happen with. We will have Force of Will mana open turn 2. His hand is pretty dead to a Sphere effect. Our opponent kept 7 on the play. I'm going to bottom this. We have enough artifacts. Mox Ruby would still be really good with this hand, but I just want to draw into some actual gas. Either a Monastery Mentor. Alright, this is a workshop. I am going to have to counter any Sphere effect. I'm going to let any non-Sphere effects resolve, though. Ruby into Soul Ring. Alright, well, we could be just getting powered through here. My opponent might cast multiple spheres. Alright, I have to counter this because it completely bricks my hand here. And then are we going to see another one? I think we might, off of Mishra's Workshop, just see another sphere. No, my opponent has no 2 or 3 drops in their deck. Alright, I'm going to hang on to Mana Crypt. Not going to activate that one just yet. And I'm going to hang on to Tolarian Academy too. But I'm going to dump all of my... Do I want to dump all of them? No, you know what? I think I just want to play out Mana Vault. So let's play Pearl. And then let's play Mana Vault here. Everything else I think I can wait on just another second. And we know my opponent doesn't have another sphere. I think we're just going to get, vehicled here, or maybe we're going to see a big Walking Ballista. Okay, no, they drew a Thorn off the top of the deck, and then do they also have a Fleetwheel Cruiser or Walking Ballista? Looks like a big Ballista. Yeah, X equals 3. Alright, well, that card's annoying, too. because it threatens our first Monastery Mentor. Alrighty, now I think we just dump my hand and play an Ancestral here. Want to generate some mana before we do it. So we're going to play Mox Opal. This does put our Mana Crypt in play, which is a little bit awkward. But this lets us play Ancestral with a lot of mana floating. Now we can cast Thoughtcast almost for negligible amounts of mana. I think we're going to wind up using this Mana Vault here. Maybe we can get away without it for a second. No, let's just tap Mana Vault. Have to pay 1 additional mana on that. Yeah, let's cast another Thoughtcast. Alright, we'll play a top, and nothing we're going to be able to do with no mana after we go through top. So, pretty explosive turn, but we are still looking for a outcome. Alright, there's a Wasteland on our Tolarian Academy. That is the reason I was sandbagging that. That means we've got a lot less mana than we were working with that turn. We also won't have Mana Vault, so we might even take a turn off just to flip Mana Vault, though it's not a huge deal if we can find an outcome. We'll just return the Mana Vault to our hand. Walking Ballista won't be able to pump itself, so that is good. I think it just means in the main deck we are going to want to outmaneuver our opponent by playing more Monastery Mentors than they can have counters for. We just kind of have to race it. Which kind of means we need to draw like 3 Monastery Mentors back to back to back. But we'll see what happens. Alright, and this spell's going to resolve. They might name top. So let's activate it. They will probably just name Mox Opal here. Alright, I'm definitely going to put this Mentor last here. So let's go Soul Ring, Force of Will, Monastery Mentor, and then let's also flip our top in response. Just in case they decide to Phyrexian Revoker it. They might still, but I think we'll see them name Mox Opal here. Alright, they do name top, but that's fine because we will still get 1 Monk trigger off of it. Alright, I'm going to yield to Mana Crypt as well. Lost the flip, so we go down to 13 life points here. I'm going to say no on Mana Crypt. So we take 1 point of damage, that's fine. Alright, we'll lead with Seed of the Synod. Gonna play Monastery Mentor. Always yield to Prowess, and always yield to making a Monk. And alright, He's going to let us have a 3/3 for the time being. I'm going to go ahead and make another monk token with this Mox Opal. It's also going to fuel our dig through time here in hand. Like I said, we're not in a great spot. If my opponent can draw a non-workshop mana source here, they're going to be able to activate Ballista again. All right, that's a Foundry Inspector. So if my opponent wants to activate Ballista now, which they should, yep, they're going to kill off Monastery Mentor. That's going to put Ballista down to 1 counter, which means we might be able to outpace and race this. My opponent cannot attack this turn, so that's lucky. We've got 2 1/1 blockers for their 1/1 and 2/1 creatures here, so we are kind of in a safe spot there. We're going to draw Force of Will this turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana to dig through time. Dig through time costs us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 mana. Yeah, we could untap Mana Vault here. We've got enough. Let's see what happens on this Mana Crypt flip. See how many more life points we have. I might dig through time. Alright, lost the flip again. Let's grab Force of Will here. Oh, but that's awkward if I want to hard cast Force of Will. Alright, let's say no. Alright, so I'm going to pass the turn with 6 mana up, and this way if I decide to hard cast Force of Will, it'll work, and I could also just dig through time in response to my opponent trying to pop a monk, though I don't think they're going to do that either. I think what's going to happen is my opponent's going to get bigger with Ancient Tomb and just attack us with Foundry Inspector here. Alright, they do go for a ping. I will respond then. Let's keep Ancestral in the bin. Alright, so we kind of blow that out, and now we get to go get another Monastery Mentor, and then hopefully like a Time Walk or something to go crazy with that with. Oh, I way overpaid on that somehow. Alright, so Monastery Mentor and then an outcome. That is pretty much the outcome that we wanted here. So let's grab those two. And hopefully this is enough to win the game. Opponent doesn't really have great attacks here either. Alright, now we just have to not lose the game to Mana Crypt. Alright, we won this flip, which means we are probably safe to move about the cabin. Not going to pay 4 here. We're just going to return that to our hand. I could return that to my hand on draw step here, but I don't think that that is super important. Alright, so if I play Monastery Mentor, I think Black Lotus will actually let me play Mentor first here now. Yeah, alright, let's do that then. I'm going to use up my Black Lotus for this, but why do you have Black Lotus if not to cast it and crack it open? Alright, so get some prowess triggers, make some monkeys, and now this outcome is going to cost us 5 mana. We're going to target all of these things, and we can actually target our Lotus even though we are going to crack it here. Doesn't actually mean anything. What do we have here? Oh, this is just our graveyard. Sure. Get out of here, graveyard. What are you doing, graveyard? Alright, so now I draw 6 cards as long as I have a land here, which I do. I could have checked to see if I could have drawn a better land too, but this is fine. So I'm just going to get a whole bunch of monk tokens, and this is going to completely outpace anything that my opponent can hope to do here. Sweet. All the monk tokens. Do I have enough? I don't think I have enough to play. I guess I can play a Mentor, but I have to tap out for it. Oh, I replayed my Mana Crypt. Hopefully that doesn't bite us. Right, Mana Crypt, then spend 2... No, spend 1 mana. Okay, yeah, I can play another Monastery Mentor. Like I said, it doesn't actually get us that much, but we can cast it. So I might as well. Next turn, I'll just cast top and then my blue spells. We just have to worry about dying now to Walking Ballista. But we also do get to attack my opponent for 16 here, which is pretty impressive. So some of these cards are going to have to get jump blocked. I think Foundry Street Inspector is going to throw in front of 1. No, Ballista's going to throw in front of 1. Pop us down to 6 here, and my opponent's going to go down to 10 life points. They didn't even shoot us. I think they see the writing on the wall here. Yep, that's it. Let's jump into the sideboard. To get game 1 against Shops is pretty sweet. I definitely do not mind that. Because this can be a little bit of a tricky matchup here. Wait, no. I like Thoughtcast. I don't like Dig Through Time. Preordain. Gitaxian Probe. And of course, all of these mental missteps are dead cards. And I think sometimes Snapcaster Mage comes out, and sometimes another outcome comes out. We'll see. I forget exactly how many cards I am boarding in this matchup. Hurkyl's Recall I haven't talked about yet, but we're going to be boarding in both Hurkyls, a pair of Steel Sabotages, a pair of Swords to Plowshares, and then a Balance and a set of Fragmentized. So yeah, it looks like we do need to even take out 1 more card here. I do like Mystical Tutor because the ability to tutor up Balance is oftentimes really good. Could board out like 1 Mox Opal because they Phyrexian Revoker you and typically want to name Mox Opal, but I'd rather not board out mana against a mana denial deck. I think I'm just going to trim 1 more Preordain or Brainstorm here. Brainstorm's not at its highest in this deck, and it's not at its highest in sideboarded matches either. Yeah, I think let's cut Brainstorm here. Yeah, that looks good to me. We're able to beat a turn 1 Sphere on the draw, and then a turn 2 Thorn Walking Ballista. That's pretty good. Fragmentize is so insane, yeah. Alright, so this hand does not have a Force of Will, and it only has 1 mana. So this hand could be, like, super sketchy. Our opponent has kept 7 again. Yeah, this hand's really sketchy. I think I'm going to keep it, though. It's potentially super explosive. Turn 1, Soul Ring, Mox Opal, keeping open Steel Sabotage. I'm going to keep. Alright, sweet. Well, my opponent probably has some number of, jewelry. No mental misstep for Soul Ring. We boarded them all out. Our deck only has, or their deck only has, alright, I think we're going to see them name Mox Opal here. If not, maybe just top again. They named top last game, so they might just be on the top mindset. Typically, if you're playing against this deck, playing workshops, not that I want to help people playing workshops against this deck, but you do typically just want to name Mox Opal. That is the general game plan here. Alrighty, sweet. We've got Metalcraft online. We're doing it. What's actually super awkward is a Wasteland will turn off our Metalcraft here. So we might want to go ahead and just fire off a Thoughtcast here with a colorless mana floating. My opponent, we won't be steel sabotaging, but my opponent didn't play anything that tricky that turn. So I think that's fine. We could also play one of our 1-mana spells to play around like Chalice or something like that. I'm just going to cast Thoughtcast here with a mana floating and probably not do anything with that mana. Maybe play a mana Vault rather, but risk it for the biscuit. Yeah, I think we got a decent biscuit here. I could play Mox Opal now just to continue to keep open steel sabotage and even potentially to preordain here. I don't hate that. I think my opponent, if they have another Phyrexian Revoker, they're going to be naming Mox Opal next turn, too. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Alright, choose a Mox Opal to keep. Let's keep this one. And let's fire off this Preordain. Again, could be keeping open steel sabotage. I think we're okay. Force of Will, I like that. That's going to buy us a lot against everything. We've got some cards here to pitch. So let's put this on top, and let's also put this on top. We're only really boned by a Wasteland now, or Strip Mine, of course. Which my opponent could very well... I think it's pretty likely that my opponent does have a Wasteland. Oh shit, I put the wrong cards in the wrong order. That's my bad. Preordain tricks me up on Magic Online a little bit here still. 4 mana, there's going to be a Fleetwheel Cruiser. Okay, well that I can deal with. They do have a Mishra's Factory to keep the Cruiser coming in. So we are going to take 7 here. So we are kind of on a 3-turn clock. I mean, Hurkyl's Recall is pretty good against Fleetwheel Cruiser, because it pressures them into main phasing some cards. The Wasteland. That's the problem child. Alrighty. Steel Sabotage also could have countered Wasteland there too if I had left that open. So that's awkward. Alright, let's just leave open Force of Will and hope to not die in a few turns here. Yeah, that's just me being bad at Magic. I'm not sure if that's like actually feels bad or just like is bad. If you make the mistake yourself, you know. Be curious if we see both factories get activated. They didn't tap the Soul Ring, so it looks like a negative on that. Alright, they're going to crew with Revoker. Smack us for 7 down to 6. So we actually need to draw an artifact or a blue source here to cast Hurkyl's Recall next turn. Alright, you know how it goes. Activate Mishra's Factory. Decide you need the mana. Just smack for 4. Decide you don't want to use the mana. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Seat of the Synod is going to help us figure out what we want to do, though. So Seat of the Synod now turns on Fragmentize. That means we can just pop Cruiser, which probably means we don't die. If my opponent does some equally boneheaded stuff next turn, aka activates their factories to try to swing for lethal, we do get to Hurkyl's their entire battlefield. So I like the sound of that. Then they're going to be able to replay all of these artifacts and then maybe try to like replay Revoker or Cruiser. I'd like to potentially sabotage on the replay here. Also Force of Will. So I think we're just going to Hercules here. I think we're going to be using Ponder with our Force of Will and holding on to Treasure Cruise. So let's hold on to Fragmentize as well. I could also just Fragmentize the Cruiser now. Maybe that's a lot safer. But, yeah, I see you saying that in the comments now, Exodores. But I think if we leave the Cruiser, it's going to pressure my opponent into tapping out main phase 1 to swing for lethal. And then we get to return their whole battlefield to their hand. A sweet 2-mana upheaval. They'll be able to replay all of it. But maybe we just, like, Steel Sabotage the Soul Ring at that point. Pretty sure they should activate the other factory and present lethal. If they're willing to activate one factory, they should probably activate both here. Do have to watch my time on the clock down to 12 minutes for these last 2 games here. Alright, crewing with Revoker again. And not going to present lethal one more time. Well, no arguments here. It's kind of like secretly lethal. Because it's not like they are... It turns off my Force of Will. Alright, so they get all their permanents returned to their hand. And then I'm pretty sure I'm just going to tag the Soul Ring here. And then I will Fragmentize the Revoker. I think. Yeah, Fragmentize the Revoker seems fine. Now, my plays will change slightly if I draw a Monastery Mentor. At that point, I'm just going to play Mentor and then Treasure Cruise with a colorless floating. Alright. That's why it's always worth discussing. Oh, wait, I won't be able to do it. I'll just be able to cast Ponder. Well, that's still fine. Monastery Mentor plus Ponder. I'll take it. If I can Ponder into a land, then I also get to cast Treasure Cruise here now. Opponent doesn't have Dismember mana open. So this should be fine. Oh, they're trying to Dismember. Alright, so my opponent clearly has Dismember in hand. Thanks, Magic Online. But they don't have open mana to cast it. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I think we just take Seat of the Synod here. We can actually cast Thoughtcast even too. Oh, but I can't draw all of these cards. So I guess I'm just going to take Seat of the Synod, cast Treasure Cruise, and then if I hit a Mox, we can keep going still. No shuffle. Play Seat. Treasure Cruise for everything. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mox Opal also contributes to Thoughtcast in that the Legend rule puts it in the bin. And I'm going to counter my opponent's Dismember here as well with Force of Will pitching Preordain. Alright, we drew another Seat of the Synod, but that doesn't let us do anything this turn. So my opponent's going to have access to like 2 mana, depending on if they draw a Reland. Oh, you're right. Yeah, Revoker was pretty dangerous to just let that resolve in general. Yeah, if they had named Mox Opal on the rebuy, which they definitely should have done at the point where they have all that information, right? Oh, yeah, that was a huge mistake. Itag, you are right. Yeah. Don't think my opponent has played like the sharpest game, but that was a huge mistake on my part. All right, and 2 follow-up mana for an Arcbound Ravager. Well, that's fine. I guess that's just going to be our fragmentized target here then. Our battlefield is really, really threatening. All we have to do is make sure that we don't... we can also get them... well, I'm not sure if we totally can. Let's lead with Thoughtcast. Give ourselves some options here. 1 mana, draw 2. Pretty insane. Even for Vintage. Alright, so I can Mox Opal, I can Mystical Tutor. So what I can do here is I can get Hellbent, and then I can balance away, like, kill all of my tokens, but we get all 3 cards out of their hand. That's kind of reasonable. I'm not totally sure on it, though. I think I might just enjoy all of the tokens that I have access to. That's really tough. It's really tough. Like, if I just Mystical Tutor for Time Walk, I can't lose the game. I'm going to hang on to this Mox Opal in hand. Just to... I could have even taken them off Mox Pearl here. I don't think Tanglewire beats us, though. Engineered Explosives could be decent, but we can't take them off of Engineered Explosives. Alrighty. So they're just going to give their Revoker a +1/+1 counter. It's not really anything. I'm going to offer up the trade of Revoker for a Monk token here. I'm actually just super okay with that. I guess if I just played Mox Opal... Oh, wait. Is that Miss Lethal? No. It's not Miss Lethal because... Oh, wait. No. Yeah. If I had played a Mox Opal, they would have had to block. So maybe that was better, but... Shouldn't be super relevant. Have 2 blockers back for my opponents. 3 attackers, of which they can only attack with 1. They need, like, Ancient Tomb, Fleetwheel Cruiser, and then they still can't activate Factory. So that is round 1 against a pretty tough matchup on the draw. We played it a little bit loose, but so did our opponent, which gave us the outs that we needed to win. So that is round 1. Thank you guys for watching, and I will be back in a sec with round 2.